Hi, Lucia.
Here we go. Hi.
Hey. Edie is on her way back from whitewater rafting.
Ooh, that's nice.
So she's in the car and we're
No, she's in her car.
gonna get things started. I take it you've had an opportunity to look at the film.
Yeah,
Okay.
interesting. Just really telling.
I thought we would start off by, instead of me like giving the background of all of you guys, letting you guys talk about yourself, because you are probably better versed in that than I am. And then we'll get into, I guess, just some more specific things. You know, Edie had asked me to look up some, points on the web. I think we can start with a few things, and the conversation will probably just go from there.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
but one of the things I thought maybe second, as we go through our second round, after everybody introduces themselves and gives a little bit about their history, basically, I thought one of the things that was interesting is like people could talk about like their journey, to be successful in their field and the obstacles that they face. So, but I'm hoping the conversation will really lead itself.
oh, I would imagine so. I mean, you just probably just need a primer, right? Um, so, so how are you doing? How is everything?
Good. Well, we got our first, round of grant reviews done, and we're just sending out notices now. And I think that went well because, well, two reasons. We didn't actually have that many DRPs open. So
Yeah.
we only had two open at MUSC and two other ones open. So, there wasn't like a large number that, we didn't have like Clemson competing and USC competing, because there just weren't any DRPs open for that. And we paid reviewers. So that was very nice. So I was able to assign reviewers 4 to 5 proposals, based on how many we got. And I think it went well. So we're just sending out announcements this week. We've got almost all of them sent out. I think next year will be a lot heavier.
Yeah.
We'll have a few of them open. Yeah, first guess. I'm gonna try to get Cindy, when Cindy's on, I don't know how to do this, to lock the screen on the three of you so that the three of you can be seen at the same time. I'm not sure how to do that. We also just had our leadership workshop the last, on Monday and Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah. That went well, I take it.
Yeah, it was online. And so I thought the student one went really well. We had some sessions over 100 students and just really good discussion.
That's
Um,
really nice. So, about 100 students is what we were getting when we were doing it in person. So the fact that it was online didn't really make things much, make attendance much worse. So that was really good.
yeah, and there was just a lot of interaction through the chat. I thought that was very good. And then for our faculty session, we had about 60. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less.
Yeah.
And I thought that went well. And the thing that I really liked about the student session is just so much useful information. I really thought that it would have been great if I had had that when I was a
When you
student.
were a student, right? Yeah, and that that's something that might go straight, right into the discussion for today. Is
Mhm.
that one component of how we um, might be able to ameliorate certain situations is really having a network and having these opportunities where people can really explore, opportunities, know what's available in terms of help. And I mean, that goes at all levels, right? Both for career choices and even these kind of things. When people find, women in particular, find themselves in situations that they don't, that are so negative, and they don't uh, quite know how to handle them. I mean, now with a more community oriented kind of situation, that'll be easier. Hey everyone. It's good to see you.
Hello,
Hi,
it's great to see
Marquita.
you too.
Hi, Martine.
Hi, Takita. I'm Holly.
nice to meet you. I'm Takita.
Gita and Martine.
Nice to see you again, Martine.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get probably a headset or something.
Mhm.
I think we'll wait till we see a few more faces. We had over 60 people say they were interested in joining, but we don't know how many will actually come. So I thought we would wait till we have a few more faces. But since we're waiting, I was gonna ask, I'm just gonna introduce you by name and then ask you all to go through some of your experience, sort of how you got where you were. And then after that round, go through everyone and ask them to do that. After that round, sort of ask you about some of the obstacles that you faced as you got to where you were. And then we'll see where the discussion goes from there.
Great.
Let's see. We're up to 5 now.
We can talk to each other. We'll talk to Jeff. There you go.
We'll talk to Jeff, right?
Hi, Jeff.
Jeff is muted, so he needs to unmute.
We can make it a conversation.
Hello, good evening. I'm just here for the comments.
Rejoin our panel.
I'm usually not that inspired, so I'll I'll stay quiet.
Oh, goodness. Well, maybe you won't need to. Maybe you'll be inspired to intervene at some point. You feel free to do that at any point.
All right, we'll see. Thank you for having me.
Did you guys get your drink? Like a thirsty Thursday? You have one? Is it like a Pirates of the Caribbean thing?
Yeah, it's
Love that.
from St. Augustine.
But
Oh,
I did
Oh,
want
I
to.
love that city.
I like a really big.
well, I have mine here, but
Well, if we only end up with 5 of us, we'll just have a chat.
We'll have a chat,
sounds
right?
good. We love chats. We get to know Taquita.
Yeah.
So you should join Inbury, Taquita.
Huh?
You should join Inbury.
Paquita's
Yeah.
been an early player in Imbre and a very important one. I hope when she introduces herself, she'll tell you about her
I
experience.
look forward to hearing this. That sounds wonderful.
Embry is
Early,
phenomenal for us all. I mean, it's been a game changer for Winthrop.
yeah.
So this weekend, I went to Bob Price's anniversary party and sat next to Dr. Borg
Oh,
and chatted with him about the early days of Bryn.
yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Bryn. The Bryn started it all. Larry Dooley, Roger Marquand, and Tom Borg. They were the three musketeers. And then I guess we owe so much to those three, you know. And then after that, they came up with BioX. They didn't know what to call things, so they called that BioX. And that started the center, the Smart State Center for Regenerative Medicine, which was the first smart state centers in the state of all, you know. And those three have brought the three schools together. And I think that because today we can do things like this, you know, and bring all the other schools with us, it's because of those three.
And things have changed over time. There's been different focuses to the grants program. I've noticed, and I like that we now have a student initiated
Yes.
project. I think that's a great idea.
It has evolved definitely in the right direction, and the only way we can stick together as a group in this state is through the students. You know, we're building, this is what NIH is, you know, in Brie, an idea is to capacity building. And I think the students are so essential. So it's never too late to do something good.
Well, I mean, the students are the reason why this program exists.
You're right.
You know, this is not like a typical research grant where the focus is research. Here, the focus is training and capacity building, and the students are at the center of it.
Right.
That's why I think that's why institutions that are really focused on teaching can be inspired to really participate and do well in it, because if you were to just simply promote a research agenda, that might not be appealing to some of the schools, many of the schools, the four-year schools that are really focused on teaching. But since this really promotes, IMBRE really promotes the intersection of teaching and research, right? I think it is for that reason that institutions are really eager to participate. And now, during my experience as PI, I mean, I was amazed to see how much enthusiasm there was in everybody, all the institutional leaders, and this all the way from the institutional leaders all the way down to the students, right, to the individual students. And the students are what drives this. If it weren't for them, we couldn't even do it. And there wouldn't be any reason to do it, quite frankly. Because, I mean, in reality, if you just think research for its own sake, research can be done anywhere, can be done at the you know, already institutions that are already research intensive, and there is no much of an incentive to spread it out quite as much. It's really the training and the research training that make this program what it is. So it's
Well, it's 5 after, and we've got 7 people online. So I guess we can get started and hope that other people join us. For those of you who are just joining us now, welcome to our discussion of the film, video, whatever you want to call it, picture of a scientist. And we hope that you had the opportunity to review this prior to this discussion. We have 3 guests with us tonight who have been outstanding researchers in their field, and we invited them because we, Edie and I in particular, really feel that these are very special people that have probably experienced a number of obstacles as they got to you know, the place they wanted to be, full professor, you know, or other positions. And I'm gonna just introduce them by name, and then we'll let them talk a little bit more about themselves. And we have here, I'm showing a screen with Dr. Lucia Louise Creek, who is retired from the University of South Carolina as professor emeritus, but she was the previous South Carolina Embry program director, and she's been the program coordinator for over many years. She's had a number of different roles, and we're very thankful to her because without her, I don't think South Carolina Embry would be where it was or is today. So we'll start with Lucia, and then we have Dr. Martine Laberge, who is her department chair at Clemson for Clemson Bioengineering. And I think that is not a fair description of all the things that she does. So after Lucia, I'll let Martine tell us a little bit about her experience. And last but not least, Takita Felder-Sumter, who is the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Winthrop. And she can tell us about how she got to be Dean. I'd be really interested in that. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her prior relationship with Embry, which many of us don't know that story yet. So I thought we would start with Lucia.
Hi. So where do I start? Well, I got my MD degree in Sardinia, Italy, in a university that has one of the oldest medical schools in Europe, the University of Sassari in Sassari, in the city called Sassari in Sardinia, northern Sardinia. Got my MD there. I was in a class of 300 people. About 100 of whom were women, and that was the exception. Was the really was already a very, very much of an exceptional thing that there were so many women enrolled in medical school. It was right at the crest of a wave of change, because medicine until then had been really male dominated. I got into medicine to do science. So then when I finished my medical degree, I already had something like 6-7 years of laboratory experience and a few papers published. So I went for a postdoc instead of going for clinical work, and I moved to the NIH and the National Cancer Institute. And then from there, I went to South Carolina as a faculty member, first as a research faculty, then the following year as a tenure track assistant professor, and I grew up through the ranks there and ended up picking up Embry as the PI a little bit towards the end of my career. And it's the usual story. I trained a bunch of graduate students, taught medical school students, had a couple of postdocs along the way, applied for grants, got some grants, got a decent number of grants, and managed to carry on a research program that was relatively successful, of which I'm pretty happy and proud about. But I think towards the end, I picked up Embry in 2006 as PI. And I basically inherited it from the previous PI, Dr. John Baines, who had retired. And I guided it through 2 rounds of competitive renewal, and I oversaw it in over 11 years, and we transformed it. And I say we, Takita knows, because she was with us from the very beginning then, because when I inherited Embry, Winthrop had just entered the program, right? And we together just built this program to what it is now. We started with 4 undergraduate institutions, and now there are 11, right? Plus the outreach institutions is a completely different landscape than what it was. And it's been a great ride and something that I'm really happy about and really proud of, but I cannot, it's not me, I cannot take credit for it. It was a team effort. It continues to be a team effort. And the credit goes to everyone that was involved, that continues to be involved. We all together did a great job, and we can be proud of it. So, and in terms of my own personal experience, we can talk about things as we go into the discussion. I think I have plenty to say, but we'll leave that for later.
Okay, Martin, is it okay if Takeda goes next?
Absolutely.
I'm Takeda Sumter, Dean for the College of Arts and Sciences. My background is in chemistry, so I have a PhD in biochemistry, actually from the University of South Carolina. I also did my undergraduate at University of South Carolina, and so I'm a little bit inbred, and in part because when I entered the program, I had a daughter and was a single parent, and I needed to be close to family in order to be able to do science and raise a family. So upon finishing my PhD, I did a postdoc at Johns Hopkins, and that's where I got into high mobility group A proteins. Love the work. But I realized that one of the things, we were a lab of postdocs and techs, and one of the things that I enjoyed most about my graduate research experience was having students. Like, I was always the person that trained the summer research students and kept the undergraduates going. And so I had intended to do a longer postdoc, but a position opened at Winthrop, and I figured I'd at least interview and decide at that point whether I wanted to keep postdocing or not. And at that time, Winthrop was pulling together a proposal for Embray. And I did not know, even though I had been in South Carolina, that they had the resources that they did. The infrastructure was pretty impressive. They had hired some new faculty that, I think were doing some exciting things. And so I chose to take the job at Winthrop. So I started in 2004 as an assistant professor. In 2006, I think, I got my first grant, which was a huge lift at a teaching institution, but it was a lot of fun because it created some flexibility for students to do things that I don't think that they would have otherwise been able to do. And I did come through the ranks there with support primarily from Embry and from really good people in the department. And so the whole plan was never to become dean. And I actually am an anomaly because I went from faculty to being dean. I actually got contacted by my provost, and she said, "I really think you should do this." And I said, "No, but I'm certain that I can help you find somebody who can." Um, and so she came back and she said, "No, I really think you should do this." And this is supposed to be an interim 1-year stint. I did it for 1 year. They hired someone. That person ultimately became provost, and so the faculty, by popular vote, asked that I come back, and so here I am. And so I don't know, like how long I will be in administration, because I really do love teaching and I love science. And so I've tried to kind of keep my hands in that arena. And so I'm very actively involved in the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, and trying to advance and expand the type of people that are engaged in that community on an active basis, so that kind of the face of science will change over the generations. And so that's kind of where we are. And we can talk about some more personal things, as Lucia indicated, later.
Thank you. Martine?
I have some kind of a different story. So I'm from the engineering background, so that fits very well when you talk about science and careers for women. So I'm from Canada, and I did in engineering, there were 2% women in a class of 100, so that can give you an idea. And I did all my schooling in Montreal, so I got from BS degree, master's, and PhD, and I got my PhD in biomedical engineering. And following that, I went to do a 2-year postdoc at University of Waterloo, so it's in Ontario. And the dress code there at that school is that you wear a leather jacket, and in the back it says Waterloo, and you're engineering major. This is mainly male dominated, and it has not changed much since then. So we're talking about the late 80s. I'm from a school that you guys probably don't know that, and especially from our young audience. But in 1989, there was a massacre at École Polytechnique, and 19 women were shot in the classroom. And it was done by a male, and it was in mechanical engineering, and it was basically the classroom I went to school in, you know. So I was, so you can see that the way we're talking about women within science and engineering can take different pathways. So after my postdoc at Waterloo, I went to Clemson. And since 1990, I've been in that department. It's not because I didn't have opportunities. After my first year, I was ready to move. Imagine when you leave from Montreal, Toronto, and you end up in Clemson, South Carolina. That was a little bit of a culture shock. I was not married then. So let me tell you, you cannot buy wine on Sunday in South Carolina then. So you get a shock at the grocery store. And I was ready to go, and I had offers from many schools. You know, you can talk about it because this is I'm in a very tight field of research, so that was easy. So, but anyway, I got married here. My husband is a faculty in mechanical engineering, and I stayed here. And I'm very proud of being a South Carolinian, and I'm probably one of the best spokesperson and realtor for South Carolina, and I like it that way. So I moved through the ranks in at Clemson in bioengineering. So I've been through tenure track and all that, and I became full professor in 2000, and I became department chair in 2002. So I'm still the chair of bioengineering by choice. And Takita, I can definitely understand what you're saying because I was in the dean's office and did not, the best day of my life is that when I returned to being a department chair, because I was doing that in an interim, but they did not convince me. So I went back to my job, and I have been enjoying teaching and relating with students since then. So engineering is a different beast when it comes to women. I've been in boardrooms at many places. I'm a former president of the Society for Biomaterials. Even though this is science, biomaterials, medical devices, this is men dominated. And I've been a board member of the Biomedical Engineering Society. Things have changed for the better. So you ladies on this call, I mean, definitely you have a bright future ahead of you. And that's in a nutshell my story. Just to give you an idea, women promote women, and you guys need to do that. You need to open doors for each other. You need to stick with each other. So in my department, and this is an engineering department, more than 30% of the faculty meeting, more than a third. So basically I have 35% now because we just hire a woman. And I have 3+ African American on my faculty. 2 of them are women. The third one is coming. So there is hope. There is hope out there. And lately, I mean, I got this kind of and I said I should not get this award. And then I don't know where you got that description about me in that symposium, that panel for the speakers. But that's a quote that came from an article that was written. For the first time, Clemson had a gender equity award. Who should not have, think that long to get this. So anyway, that was the first year we all won it, and then they gave it to me. And when I got it, I told everyone, this is not my award. This is my department's award. This is for all the women. And then I'm a minority. I have an accent, and I'm from abroad, and I'm a curiosity to many people here. So, and I'm a woman in engineering. So I said, I'm taking it, I'm accepting it for all the minorities who have beat the bushes and say, Why not? You know, look at me more as a brain rather than someone who can wear a dress one day. So that's my story, Holly.
Okay, thank you. Um, would you like to start by with telling us some of the obstacles you faced along the way?
There were many, but one thing I can say is that I always try to be focused and never letting that influence me, because you get home and you cry and you say, why? You know, I have a degree, I did all this. Why do I have to prove myself more? I have stories. And even today, we were talking about this panel tonight with my staff, and then we live it every day. But I became more resilient over time. I'm able to focus on the right thing. I'm able to also ignore a lot of the things going on because it can really hurt. I can give you an example. I get hugged a lot. And obviously my colleagues don't get hugged, the male colleagues. So I'm 5'2", and I'm small, you know. And I'm always said, oh, you're so huggable. Well, come on. I mean, you shouldn't be doing this, especially when you are in a boardroom or when you go to a meeting. And that, I call that microaggression. And so then I give the hug back. I say, okay, well, I'm French descendant. We like to hug. So, but, you know, little things like that, like they don't do that to each other. They will, or another thing too, and I'm going to stop here. When I go to meetings or boardrooms or whatever, I get introduced as Martine. My colleagues around are Dr. So-and-so. And this fact that I don't think they mean badly, again, this is me being positive. It's more like they try to show affection. In business, you don't do that. So you guys here, Jeff, John, don't do this. This is a no-no. But just these are little things that, you know, you point out, you say, yeah, there again, you know, the hugging and familiarity. I don't know if Lucia and Takita have went through this, but I get hugged.
Lucia, or you want to talk?
Yeah, I don't know. My experience is really complex because my training occurred in Sardinia in the Italian university, which I really escaped. Right. I mean, the environment there is so hierarchical, right? The young scientists just grow up under the thumb of a very powerful boss, and very few of those bosses are women. Now things have changed, but when I was growing up, and I was at this point 4 decades ago, you know, these people controlled every aspect of your life. My boss told me to my face that there was absolutely no way that I could do science and have a family at the same time, because the dedication that was necessary to have a scientific career was just, I mean, I couldn't marry, basically, according to him. I said, the hell with that. You know, I don't think so. And there were so many ways that you would be just, you know, and it wasn't just that, honestly, it was everybody. It wasn't just because I was a woman. All of the young scientists were subjected to that kind of treatment. And women, you know, they had an added burden on, and it was worse for women than for men, but all young scientists had to really contend with this kind of thing. And I saw my own boss, my own mentor, who was a mentor and a friend to me at the beginning, turn when he became full professor. Just turn completely. It was one of the most devastating things that I ever was able to witness during my career, because he was this open-minded, revolutionary kind of guy who was against the system, against everything. The moment he becomes full professor, he just is it becomes it became one of the bosses, one of the big guys, and everything that he'd been talking about was just totally over this, I go, this is not the way it's supposed to work. So anyway, I basically left. I took the first opportunity I could take and left, and came to the US. And of course, the US wasn't a lot better in some ways, but at least I would have the opportunity to, I was told you could be a Nobel Prize winner, but if I say that you don't have a job in Italy, you don't have a job in Italy, right? So I go, well, okay, then I won't have a job in Italy. I'm gonna build my job somewhere else, and I left. And I came to the US, and my first experience after, my boss in the US was just totally out of his mind, and unfortunately subjected me to a number it was good in one sense, and I learned a lot from him and everything, but then the other one was one of those people that push you into corners, right, and try to really are very physical and really close to you all the time, and he had this thing that he would never do with a male collaborator, to try to embarrass me, right? So it's like, well, you will find every possible opportunity to embarrass me, just because you will get a kick out of embarrassing me. And I'm not easily embarrassed. I'm a physician, right? I don't really, I don't blush very easily. You do. At one point, and I'll just tell you this one episode, right? Where he said we were working with tissue, foreskin tissue and cervical tissue. So when taken from women from hysterectomies, and we were placing cells in culture and working with papillomavirus and all of that. And he goes, I don't really remember what the structure of the cervix is. Could you explain it to me? Well, of course, that was all bullshit. He knew very well what the structure of the cervix was. And I go, sure, I'll draw it for you. So I basically drew the whole, female, not the whole female genital apparatus, but really the cervix, the portion, the body of the uterus, and how it relates to the vagina anatomically, right? I just took a pen and put a piece of paper and drew it. People left. The people around, we were in a lab, right? People just left the lab because they couldn't stop laughing. Because I didn't even, it was just like this. Oh, sure, here it is. I'll draw it for you. And one day I walk into the lab and he goes, you didn't shave this morning. And I go, I know. And he goes, I cannot embarrass you. No matter what I do, I cannot embarrass you. And I go, what are you talking about? I'm a Sardinian woman. I don't get, pushed down in any way, shape, or form, right? He ended up having a lot of respect for me and everything. But if I had been a guy, he would not have taken that attitude. You see what I mean? And it's just like, for me, it wasn't a big deal to just put up with him and just put him in his place and continuously putting him in his place. But why did I have to be, dealing with this kind of crap? I didn't need it. It wasn't anything I looked for. And I had to basically, it was my way of defending myself. I had to defend myself, and it was just really not pleasant, right? And it didn't make it for a very difficult work environment because of my attitude, not because of his attitude. I will brush it off. It's just like, it really, honestly, didn't affect me that much. I laughed it off because I realized it was more of a attitude than really a really nefarious intent, right? But man, it was a pain in the neck. So but then I came to South Carolina, and I ended up in a chemistry department, physician, virologist in a chemistry department. I was a fish out of the water, but And, you know, there's little things that I never was in a situation where I felt that I was discriminated against in a very serious way. But just the fact that you say, you know, today, the chair of the department, I go, well, I got a job at the School of Medicine, so I'm leaving. And his answer was, oh, we're going to miss your smile around here. And I said, Jerry, do you have a job for me? Because if you do have a job for me, I will not leave. You know, I don't really. And he goes, oh, no, I could never do that. Well, then you will miss my smile, won't you? So, I mean, you know, we just, at some point, you gotta just pull out your teeth and nails and use them, because don't allow, this is for the young people out there, don't allow anybody to put you down. You can react in such a way that you're still civilized, you're never, you know, never really totally out of line, but you're not kicking and screaming, but heck, people attempt to put you down and you refuse. It's as simple as that. I mean, this went back, my training was first in a laboratory where there were many more men than there were women, and you had to just be one of the guys in order to survive. And the other one was surgery. Surgery at the time was really, really male dominated. And there were these assistant surgeons that when I was a student, that would basically go out with the students, attempt to go out with the students. And it was just open season, right? And I walk in there and I have a pen in my pocket of the right over my breast, right? And this guy reaches over, takes the pen, writes, puts it back once, twice. I go, you keep that pen. When you're done with it, you can give it back to me. In front of everybody, just like, and that's all it took. It told everybody I wouldn't repeat what they said I was, but it never touched me again. And, you know, it's at that point, he could have done what have you to my career. I didn't care. It was just not being proper. And sorry, I don't take any shit from anyone. It's just as simple as that. So that has been my attitude. And again, why? Why would I have had to do this, right? And I wasn't searching for these things. I wasn't looking for them. They weren't just, the thing is that you know, again, I'm a Sardinian woman. In Sardinia, women are very independent. They are the ones that control the household, even the old traditional families. They do what they want. And usually they are, you know, in the decision-making positions, and you grow up in a way that even in the very traditional Sardinian families, the woman, the lady of the house, the woman is the one that carries a lot of authority, a lot of wisdom as well. You know, the elder women are very highly respected. And you grow up with this sense of who you are, that, you know, and this fact that you really won't allow anybody to step all over you. That's not allowed. So, but even so, I mean, even with this attitude, you go through, and you know, why? It's like, why can't we just interact in a civilized fashion without all of this crap? So that's pretty much my sense of things. Things have improved tremendously, and they've improved because there are more women in the job. And I don't think we are unique in the sciences. I think this happens in basically all fields and there are fields in which, you know, it happened in medicine that women became more numerous, and then it happened in engineering, right? And so in engineering is still a little bit more of a
Still very low. You have about 18% women
right, right.
in our ranks, you know, and departments like here. And like even at USC, that's the same. Very, very few women faculty in the traditional. So it's difficult for students, female students, to go find someone to go talk to.
Right.
Fortunately, now we have Title IX. We have a lot of mechanism to help students and also staff and faculty to kind of not being afraid of, like you said, you know, you went through this, so you were not, you were one of those very strong-headed who did not have, you didn't fear. You said, this is the way it is. I'm somebody, look at me. But if you have a poor graduate student who has a mentor, and we've seen that in that movie, who is, you know, taking like, you know, inappropriate even thoughts about who is a grad student in his lab, it's so difficult, you know, for them to go to go express themselves. But things are changing for the better. There is so much hope right now. But you know, I'm 60 years old, so I can tell you this is different generation than you have. And Takita is much younger than me. So I would say, you know, this is like you live through this, but it's still present. I mean, I could tell you a bunch of stories about things that I have to say. And you go talk to your advisor, you say, someone said that to me or came up with this. And they don't know what to say. They back up and they say, you're alone, you're on your own. So to me, what is the most difficult is to find an advocate, someone who you really care, someone who's going to care about you as a person rather than a woman, and to kind of look at it in perspective, and someone you can go talk to. So the mentor, and sometimes there's so many girls who have the wrong mentors. I really enjoy watching that movie. I did it twice, and I really wanted to see more of the specific details. But if you guys have noticed, and I hope you all look at it, and I'll stop after that, there was a progression. This was at MIT. And then this is the alternate place when it comes to, and it was not even MIT engineering, it was MIT science, where you would probably have more women. But the attitude they had, and those women have so much like wit about doing something and protecting others, they took the stand to do that. But then there was Sangeeta Bhatia, who I know very well, now is like professor, but she's young. She's like in her early 40s. And Sangeeta said, you know, things have changed here. I feel good because those women took a stand. So there is hope. There is great hope out there.
Akita, can you give us a little bit about some of the things that you face, either personal or professional, to
Uh,
get where you are?
yeah. I think that one of the things that resonated from the comments that have been shared, but also from this movie, is I think the importance of people kind of coming ahead of you and regulating, so to speak, the environment. Um, but you can often find yourselves as the first, the only, and the different, right? And people just don't know how to handle that. So for me, I think the biggest obstacle, or kind of the first moment when I realized that I was in a whole different place, right? Was when I decided I had entered into a master's program, and I said, I'm good at this and I like it, so I want a PhD. And the person with whom I was working thought I was a great candidate for a master's, but not for a PhD. And it wasn't really, based on anything other than bias. And so, the immediate default was, we don't have money for that. We can support you for a master's, but we can't support you for a PhD. And so luckily, I think that kind of benefit of having advocates and friends around campus was what made it, possible for me to kind of switch away from this person, get the resources that I needed, and complete a PhD. And, looking back, it's actually ludicrous that someone would think that they couldn't find the money for me to do a PhD versus the master's. But at the time, I didn't know, right? And so you don't know what you don't know. Um, and so that was the first time that I understood really the political landscape of science. I never thought that my color or my gender mattered until then. And then I thought, oh, this is really different. Um, but I also think it kind of set the stage to undo many of the cultural doings that Lashia talked about. Like, I come from a family of very strong women, always kind of knew who I was and knew what I had to offer. But as a scientist, that experience raised questions about that. And so for a long time, I think, you struggle with this. Do I belong here? Am I good enough? Am I going to make it? At what point are they going to figure out that, this is the end for me, right? And so I think that situations like that are things that people often deal with, but they don't talk about. So you don't know that those questions come up for everybody. And then you could easily kind of talk yourself out of doing things that you can and should do. And I think it can impact your resilience. So for me, I probably would say one of my biggest obstacles for a long time was myself. Because I spent so much time doubting, like, I would enter situations that both Martine and Lucia have described, and I would handle them well in real time, but then I would go home and kind of, ruminate on it and just kind of second guess myself, and it would impact what happened the next day, right? Like either you kind of become someone who overworks to compensate, or you just kind of analyze and overdoubt and panic about things that probably aren't important. And I think that those are kind of real issues that come with the territory if you have never like seen yourself in this paradigm. And so I think it's good that we've gotten to a point as a culture in the sciences that we will have these kinds of conversations so that people know, because you can sit down and talk to someone and then you're like, oh, okay. But there were some women that I saw in my experience as a scientist that had been hardened by science. They were probably a generation or two ahead of me, and they just seemed inaccessible. Um, and they definitely didn't represent the type of person that you'd want to become. And and so that too, I think gets difficult. And that's why it really it's nice to see people who have some level of balance, or at least, can be kind and, haven't been hardened, I think, for lack of a better term, by the sciences.
Thanks.
It's really a shame, right? When people ended up having to fight quite that hard, and then that becomes a reason to just close yourself up and no, really, no, that is a tragedy. Because then there's just the science, and just the science is good, but it's not everything. And you gotta have the training, the human interaction, the mentoring, all of that is part of this experience, and you really lose it if you don't. But there are a lot of people like that. I mean, if you look around, and it's not just women. It's when people are into science in a way for the wrong reason, or success goes to their head, right? And it's like they think that they're the best thing since sliced bread, and they're excellent, and they're extremely bright, and just they got the world at their feet, but they can't quite handle it. It's terrible. It's just really bad. Anyway.
So when I was looking at the video, and thinking about like how I would react in certain situations. And I would think that one of the things that I would do is just tell the person to stop doing that. And sometimes just standing up to the person would be enough. But then I got thinking about it, like, why should anyone ever be put in those situations to start with? And so how do we help it from occurring? Because I mean, part of this is this discussion here, part is the video. I mean, there's been a lot of dialogue over many years. It's gotten better over time, because a lot of this started back in the late 1990s. And it's, you know, I don't experience a lot of discrimination against women. I've not experienced a lot of harassment, but there's also things like Lucia, I just laugh off. I just don't let it bother me when some male faculty member basically makes an ass of themselves. But I mean, how can we keep it from occurring to start with? I mean, I think that just kind of having like a no tolerance would help. I don't know what other people's thoughts are.
Well, it's about role models. Just like I said, you know, if like, you know, we're all educators here. So if our students see strong women in leadership positions like Takita, you know, and then say, I did it, you can do it, you can voice, you are a human being. Yes, you're different than others. You're a woman. However, you can think on your feet, you can solve problems, and you are the ultimate out there. So if our students, male and female, see us that way, do this, they'll be more likely to respect. It's all a matter of respect that you have there. And I think that now we see that more and more within our ranks, like more women, you know, moving up to full professors, more women taking leadership positions. I can tell you that now in engineering, woman dean would not have been seen maybe 15 years ago or 10 years, but now it's like 1 out of 3 is a woman dean. And they're very strong women because they made it all the way. They don't take bullshit, like Lucia said. And then, you know, they're role models. So you want to be like people you admire. And I think this is what our society has done. And then, Holly, you're definitely a generation younger than me. So then you can, it's so refreshing to see this. But I have lived this, all those, you know, starting with a dictator and as a chair and moving up that way and learning to say, I don't want to do this. I'm going to go change something. So I think if women take the baton and just say, I'm going to go make a difference. I want to change this because it needs to be better, and wanting to take the challenge, and really something that is a little bit of a concern to me. And then you guys can see that, you know, within your degree programs too, is that we have a lot of women PhD students, a lot. Where do they go? And many want to go in industry because they think that the academic career is difficult for a woman. I would say might not be now. It might be easier because we have advocates, but we need more. So Gabriella and Funky, you're there with us. You guys need to have that in mind. This is what you want to be. You want to be the one who's going to drive the bus. I don't know if you read that book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, and you're the greatest. And you cannot be afraid of exposing that and voicing and wanting to take the lead. So my view is that the way we can assure our future, and this is for the common good of our society, is to entice having role models and also having women who are willing to take leadership position and not checking it out of being a dean and a provost and moving up.
That's great. I think one of our panelists said this earlier, and I've believed this for a long time. Women need to help other women. And in my scientific societies that I belong to, there's one in particular, I noticed that women help the women in their lab, but it's almost like they worked against other women that were not their trainees.
Mm,
And I really felt like we should be trying to lift each other up, not trying to keep other people down just so that our lab and our trainees can look better. So I really feel that we have to help all of our students and junior faculty members, because I have a lot of friends who postdoc with me, and they're still not in long-term faculty positions. They're still in soft money positions, and we just have to keep helping them if that's what their long-term goal is. I even have male colleagues that are kind of stuck in long-term postdocs that would like to move on, and I send them job announcements all the time of things that I think they would qualify for. And, I write them reference letters. If I don't feel I can write a good reference letter, I don't write one, but I do try to help them. And I think that's what we have to do, especially if you think someone is talented, they might not be able to um, see that 100% on their own. They might need encouragement, like you said, from mentors. But I do think that women have to support other women.
I think that that's very true. I think that also kind of having that flexibility, like I have a friend who runs a lab, and he said something that was monumental to me. He was like, students these days aren't going to just come in the lab first thing in the morning and stay until late at night, 7 days a week. He said, you're not going to get that kind of student or postdoc these days, right? And he said it with no judgment, right? And I think that there's some benefit to thinking about how we codify a good scientist as a community, because I do think that there's sometimes this level of judgment. Um, and then the other thing I would say is I think we have to educate our male colleagues, and maybe foster some relationships where we are comfortable um, calling them to the carpet if they are doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and or saying something, and it could be completely unintentional. But I think that I have one person that I'm really good friends with, and I'm like, I don't think you really meant to say what you said. I'm really not sure you meant to say that. And at the moment he thought, yeah, no, I really meant to say that. But then a week later he said, yeah, I'm glad that you said that to me, because it's like, yeah, I don't think that's what you mean. Like,
That's precious. I think that's precious because it's it's true. Sometimes people don't men in particular don't realize the consequences of what they're saying or even doing, and if they just don't realize they're out of line, and you gotta call them on to it. It's very true. So I think that's precious, because I mean that was really a learning experience for your friend, right? And it has improved his behavior in one way or another. It's really cool.
So we have some students and fellows on the call. Or if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat, or we can keep talking for a few more minutes. But I think we're going to wrap this up close to the hour. Let me check in the chat if anyone wants to put anything in there. I think, I feel like I've been really lucky. I have a great chair. I've never had any problems from him. I had a previous chair, maybe he made one or two off-color comments, and I don't even think he was aware of it, honestly. And I just didn't let it bother me. The only thing I've ever problem, it's not even a problem. The only thing that kind of hurt my feelings at USC was when I was interviewing, and the person who was the associate dean at the time said to me, "Well, we've got to hire a woman. If we don't hire a woman soon, we're not going to be able to hire anyone because we don't. We're getting in trouble for not having enough women faculty." And I was hired, and I thought to myself, I'm qualified. And that bothered me a little bit, but I met the two other candidates, and then I knew I was absolutely qualified. But why would he say something like that? Because I felt like, so I'm the most qualified. It has nothing to do with me being a woman, but he didn't have to say that out loud. He could have thought it, but he didn't have to say it out loud. But
Yeah, because I mean, you were hired maybe 2-3 years after me, right? And
probably a few more after
a
that.
few more perhaps, right? And I mean, when I was hired, there were 4 of us hired at that time at the School of Medicine. 3 of us were women. So it wasn't like, hiring women was this thing that was so unusual. I mean, it was me, Marlene, and Leslie, and Jeff Patton. And we were hired all at the same time. All together, 3 of us were women. So I don't know what that comment was all about. It wasn't like you were the first woman to be hired in 40 years at the School of Medicine. No, no.
We do have a question or a comment in the chat. It says, is there any advice you have for junior faculty starting out?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Find an advocate. Find someone you can talk to. Don't let things bother you. Don't think it's about you something wrong about yourself. It's not. If you got hired, you're great. And then you have a place there to make it your own department, and then to own it, bottom line. So I would say that don't be afraid. Find someone to talk to. I hope you have a mentor. And if you don't like your mentor, and if it's not someone that sometimes we assign mentors, and that should not be the case. But find yourself someone, a confident, someone you can go share with, someone you have in confidence.
I think it's important sometimes to have different types of mentors too. To have, a mentor maybe like in your research field, in your department, but then have like a mentor in the university or from a prior position that can help you in other ways. Just overall, like, grant writing, maybe give you some advice if you need some for your personal life, how balancing career and home life, which can be a real challenge, I think, for women in particular. Just sometimes maybe more than one type of mentor to help, but definitely have, if you're a female, make at least one of them a woman that's maybe been through some similar things.
I would say, prioritize your publications and your grants, because everything else you can catch up on. You just kind of have to do the things that you can't catch up on. So when I interview faculty, I say, let them ding you on service. You can always catch up on that. But you can't just, very quickly turn around papers and grants overnight, right? And so I think that might be a very helpful piece. And that's where your mentors come in, because having them read your grants and give you feedback and ask you critical questions is invaluable.
Yeah, I agree with that. Most of the institutions, research is the priority, and teaching. We're all teachers. I mean, we may not all be the best teachers, but we're all teachers. We can all teach. But research is really where you're going to be judged, and these the judgment. This goes back to our tenure and promotion talk the other day. The judgment is by peers in your field or experts in your field when you come up for tenure and promotion. So you have to be really strong in your research area with grant funding and publications to secure your promotion and tenure.
And you have got to develop, if you haven't yet, you've got to develop a really thick skin. Don't let setbacks convince you that you're not worth it or you're not capable. Just keep going. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not worth it. You know, this is a profession in which we're judged at every turn. Whatever we do, we're judged, right? We send the paper out, it's judged. We are judged every year as a I'm not anymore because I'm retired, but I mean, you know, you guys. Every time you turn around, you're evaluated, you're judged. It's more than, I mean, this happens probably in all professional areas, but in science, it's like a constant. And you have to develop some level of self-defense, right? In this, not let, if you get a negative comment or a negative judgment or a negative evaluation or what have you, it's not like, I wouldn't say don't pay attention to it, because I mean, but just be careful about that. And one thing is to take a negative comment or a negative evaluation as an opportunity to grow, right? You realize that there may be a little bit of truth and there's something you can improve, and that's good. You can then, you know, remediate and or improve and do things better. But if things are there to just push you down, just by all means, you know, push against and push up, because there's no point in letting, you know, if you don't develop a very thick skin, you're not going to make it through. This is a very, very competitive environment. And I mean, I remember when it was sort of a ritual, right? I couldn't do it anymore with when all of the reviews for grants became all computerized, but you can still symbolically throw them in the trash. You know, when the pink sheets from a grant proposal arrive, the first thing I will do is look at them, just crumple them up, toss them in the wastebasket. It was cathartic. It was just like, and then I will, of course, pull them back out, iron them up, right? And look, and start with the yellow marker highlighter and just highlight all the things that actually were, you know, pertinent and actually were good. And yeah, I didn't think about that. That's very good criticism. This will help me improve my next submission, and put BS across everything that was just not based in reality, which you get a lot of. And then eventually just put my review together, my revision together, and send it on. But it's, you know, you've got to take the criticisms really seriously, and then decide what is wheat and what is shaft, and throw away the shaft and take care of the wheat and go on. Use the wheat to grow and improve.
I had a friend who would sit under her desk with a bottle of wine and read her grant reviews under the desk. And I'm like, where are you? I'm sitting on the floor under my desk. Okay, so what's the plan forward? But that was the first read. It was always just, I need a bottle of wine. I'm gonna just sit on the floor and go through these. And she was amazing. She was really, really good. So yeah, I think that community really kind of helps you figure it out. And you look at people like that and they have crazy grant reviews, and you realize, okay, this is just kind of par for the course.
Yeah, it's part of life, right? It's part of our life, or what was my life. Um, and heck, with, you know, you were talking about now getting a student that will stay there all day and good part of the evening. One of my last graduate students was somebody like that. They'll just get in the lab and just spend his life there, and just driven by passion, driven, completely driven by passion. It was amazing. You know, the actual side, and it's not a matter of, I had another one that would come into the lab for a certain period of time, get a huge amount of work done, and then leave. So, I mean, everybody's different, and is, in a way, the secret is, if you have a good mentor, they can pull the best out of you. They really can. And it always pays off to have to find a good mentor. So some of them are really diamonds in the rough, right? They come in and they know nothing. I mean, there's so much fun in. Don't let this kind of negativity just get to you. Science is fantastic, and doing science with other people who have the same passion and sharing that with the younger people around you whom you train is one of the best things in the world. It's one of the best jobs in the world. Despite all of that, the crap you can just shovel out the door and not worry about it. Don't let it ruin the fun. There's a lot of fun in doing science.
Now, as we wrap things up, are there any final words of advice for our younger people?
I will say, don't lose track of why you're doing this, what you're doing. Don't ever lose track of what it is that you want to accomplish, and don't forget your passion for science. If you keep it alive, it's gonna get you.
I think have fun. I'm sorry, my dog is taking care of the neighborhood. Um, I think have fun. This is a good job. It's a lot of fun. It's a great career. You get to know amazing people. You kind of control your own destiny. And I think when things get really busy, always remember that the important things will get done. Everything that doesn't get done is probably not important.
Oh, that's difficult, since I think you said the most important. One thing to me that I always give as an advice to my younger junior faculty is that build a network. And because you will always need someone who will write letters of recommendation for you, someone who will review you, someone who's going to be sitting in the study section, who can say, I know this person, someone who's going to read your papers on an editorial board. So it's very important to build a network of scientists, you know, like Lucia said, people who work in the same field we are, so that we can progress as well. And it's good to get out too. So
I want to thank our three panelists who have given up their valuable time to be with us tonight and discuss something that's really important. And although there's only a few of us here, I hope that those guests that are here, those younger faculty and students, will actually, you know, have had some benefit from this and take to heart some of these take-home messages. You know, listen to this experience, because I really do think it can help you to secure your spot, especially if you want to do academics. But remember, there's a lot of science opportunities besides academics as well. So I thank everyone again, and I wish you a good rest of your evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
thank you all.
Good to see everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.